Sogen Kato became known as one of Tokyo's oldest living individuals in July 2010 at the age of 111. When local officials came to visit him for his milestone, they were shocked to discover his mummified skeletal body in bed. His family has restricted repeated attempts by local officials to meet him, and he was assumed to have died some 30 years prior at the age of 79. Over the years, Sogen Kato's family fraudulently collected 9.5 million yen, or about 100,000 US dollars, in pension intended for Mr. Kato. The incident triggered a nationwide search in Japan for approximately 235,000 missing elderly people, some resulting in arrests. Sogen Kato was born on July 22, 1899, and lived in Adachi, Japan, with the family of his eldest daughter. He was known to be a strict, stubborn, and devout man. The Adachi ward in Tokyo knew of his presence and age, claiming him to be the oldest living person for several years. They sent him congratulatory birthday gifts for the years 2008 and 2009. Without receiving any response, local officials started to question whether he was still alive in February 2010. "We do not know the last time Mr. Kato was confirmed alive," explained the Adachi ward. In preparation for the 2010 Respect for the Aged Day, welfare officials tracked down Sogen Kato's residence to confirm his status, as he would have been 111 years old. His milestone would mark him as one of the 5 oldest living individuals in the world, and they wanted to congratulate him. However, numerous visitation attempts were denied by his family, claiming that Mr. Kato didn't want to see anyone. On one Wednesday in July, one of Mr. Kato's grandchildren would enter the police station. They claimed that a family member tried to check up on Mr. Kato in his room on March 25th and saw a skull. The grandchild was quoted as telling the police, "Grandpa was a very scary man, so we couldn't open the door. He shut himself up in the room without any food or water." After hearing of this, authorities grew suspicious and began an internal police investigation. They had heard that one of his family members told an acquaintance, "In fact, he died a long time ago. His family all knows." Police were able to force their way into the 2-story house to discover the corpse of Sogen Kato in the 1st-story bedroom. He had turned white and was covered with a blanket, lying in bed, and dressed in pajamas. His body was mummified, with some parts reduced to skeleton. He was assumed to have died 30 years ago, based on newspapers and local bulletins dating back to November 5, 1978, found in his room. An autopsy was conducted. There were no obvious signs of trauma, and the time and cause of death were both unknown. Police immediately questioned his relatives as to why they did not report his death. They said, around November 1978, he had confined himself in his room more than 30 years ago and became a living Buddha. Fearing him and respecting his wishes, Mr. Kato's family secluded themselves from him on the 2nd floor. The family stated they did not know that he had died before his discovery. Authorities did not believe their explanation due to the fact that they had been fraudulently claiming his pension. Mr. Kato's wife, a former public school teacher, had already passed away in August 2004 at the age of 101. From the time of her death until June 2010, she and Mr. Kato had a bank account that had approximately 9.5 million yen in mutual aid pension for her. The pensions were applied by mail in Sogen Kato's name, even though he was already dead. It was reported that the bank account to which these payments were deposited was recently withdrawn earlier that year. Just before his body was discovered, the balance had approximately 290 yen left. Since Sogen Kato was suspected to have died around 1978, there is a suspicion that his welfare pension was stolen in 1979. However, since the statute of limitations for fraud in Japan is 7 years, authorities focused a fraud investigation against the family, amid suspicion that they had stole the pension money paid to Mr. Kato and his late wife, who died 6 years prior. Yutaka Muroi, a Tokyo Metropolitan Welfare official, said, "His family must have known he has been dead all these years, and acted as if nothing happened. It's so eerie." Following the investigation in late 2010, Sogen Kato's granddaughter and daughter were both arrested and charged on suspicion of illegally claiming pension payments. Sogen Kato's incident helped reveal a deep problem in Japan, where about 235,000 Japanese people over the age of 100 were unaccounted for. The Japanese media intensively criticized the authorities for their careless administration and their poor record keeping. As the news of the situation spread, Japan declared a nationwide checkup and search for their senior citizens over the age of 110 years old. About 400 people in the search were missing, and in some cases, their relatives had not spoken to them for decades. In other cases, similar to Mr. Kato's, people were arrested for concealing elderly deaths and defrauding. What an eye-opening story. From a small fraud case to a nationwide search. Let me know your thoughts about the story down below in the comments. You can find all sources I used in the description below. I would appreciate it if you could like the video as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I would like to thank you for watching.